So yeah, the explosion did not kill Warwick, as was mentioned, but it did more damage, I guess, than he was even doing, which makes all of it pointless. I don't know. I can't speak to anything that was achieved by.
It blew up red shirt Noxians, of which we just have more in the bag.
I was going to say, there's more of
The
them
only-
post this than there were anyway, so it doesn't
The
matter.
only real conclusion to draw is essentially the explosion and Grogu dying was only to serve Jinx's storyline, which
is
isn't that bad?
Well,
It's
it's
fucking
it's funny you
hilarious.
say serve it. It just
Yeah.
crashes her back down to where she was.
Yeah, no, I know, but I guess I'm in the way that they intended, which
Mhm.
isn't that like fridging? You know, didn't Grogu?
Oh,
get fridged
Fringy, how correct you are.
Oh,
And how
that's good.
how I enjoyed
It wasn't
watching
even a
people
good
realize that she was a plot device. It's so funny
Yeah.
because we were calling her a plot device in Act 1 because of how little substance there was,
Because
but
of
people were like,
course
no,
she
no,
was.
no, 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 no. And then when this happened, they were like, wait, they just used her as a plot device. Like,
The arc of history. Once again.
Well, what I'm referring to there is
did it
more of a. It's like almost an accidental. We're commenting on what we believe the writers had done with the creation of the character, and then you actually see that, coming true in footage we haven't even seen yet. My point is that like it's very clear what they were up to, because it's so shallow. But like a lot of people are very mad for different reasons, right? They thought she was a very substantive character and she was sidelined. But I think the biggest thing that gave it away was the Act 3. The world does not care about Grogu.
No,
No,
That's right. Jinx
they don't-
does
I mean,
never mention her.
it's
I don't
mentioned
think.
as much as Heimerdinger.
You get
Well, the thing is,
results of it,
Jinx's
quote unquote.
behavior.
But
the
yeah,
impact on Jinx, which is
Yes.
more than Heimerdinger got, but
Yeah.
I mean, just like Heimerdinger, Grogu never gets mentioned really at all.
Nope.
No, it's
I think it's fair to say that like Grogu's death does definitely have an effect on Jinx.
yes,
But that doesn't change the fact that what Fringy said is that like Grogu is only narratively connected to one other part of the story, which is Jinx's
Exactly.
character.
she's
she
Jinx
doesn't
DLC.
Yeah, exactly. She was injected into the story to let them hit this character beat with Jinx, and that's it. It's like first draft kind of thing.
Well, the thing is that I don't care about fridging as like a topic, but plenty of people do, and it's
Yeah.
just weird that this is fridging. This is what fridging is. It's when a character dies pretty much exclusively to serve the story of another character. It's just that usually, it was created in relation to men.
Well, we had
stories related to men, but
we had a big long episode all about our perspective on fridging, and if you break it apart into the actual
boy.
problems being the writers no longer treat a character with respect and instead use them to make other things happen that they want, this would qualify completely.
Absolutely. Grogu
Does it have
was
to be
plot
a-
device, and now they're done with her.
Because it wouldn't even have to
bye.
be death. It could be anything. It's just when your characters are slowly becoming not characters at all, and instead people who do things to make other things happen. But yeah, I don't know. This hit bad for a lot of people who really, really liked Grogu, which they're out there.
People liked Grogu.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Of course, yeah, of course. I mean, essentially, that's the whole point of Grogu is designed to be liked. That she can't even speak feels like it contributes to that.
She can never say anything stupid and unlikable if she never speaks.
hmm
So we get the results of that big explosion on the good guys' side, and we get a little flashback to tell us that Vi got like significantly injured and knocked out. Jace was fine. Caitlyn was fine. Jinx was fine in terms of her general health. She's just upset. And Warwick he fell over. I'm not sure. And Grogu was vaporized. And so you wonder, like, okay, so they were all captured then. You're like, no, they escaped. They escaped because, I guess, not enough Noxians were there to stop them. And you think to yourself, like, well, how is that possible? And you go, well, maybe Grogu's explosion killed them. It's like, how could it have killed them and not killed the good guys? Well,
Yeah, it's important to remember that this was not like a battle. It wasn't like army versus army and they're caught up in the middle. It's main characters and Victor's like robot mind control people. They weren't a factor because
No.
Victor had already been shot at this point, which means it is main characters, Warwick, and a bunch of Noxians. So yeah, there's no the explosion to them to safety. That's it. That's all we've got.
And it's
Boy.
a long way back up to Piltover.
Also,
There's no
yeah,
real
just-
distracting force.
To be clear about how lazy this is, they want us to believe area of effect, suicide bombing child managed to wipe out every obstacle for the good guys, but not the good guys themselves. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well-
really lucky. It's so lucky it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's consistent. All of our main characters have been quite explosion-proof lately,
It's so toothless.
even in season one.
It's not.
it
The
is.
thing is, it's worse
Right.
than what we had in season 1, though, because in season 1 we had times when characters would get exploded and then they'd be okay. We just had that, but then also off screen they managed to get away from the enemy and get to safety. This explosion
Yeah,
happened while they were surrounded by enemy
Well,
soldiers.
You know, in terms of what Theo said about it being toothless, season 1 did this, but like it didn't work out. That was episode 3. They
don't
did the
think-
same thing. and
That's
it didn't
right.
work out. And it had
Realistic
serious
consequences. Yep.
I'm struggling
well,
to think of
so-
a time in season 1 where a person got exploded and didn't come away with at least relatively
Consequences.
severe consequences.
Consequences
Yeah.
of some kind, yeah.
Like even the one where Caitlyn, the one in I think it's episode 4 that's framed a bit
Yes.
strangely so that you don't know where Caitlyn is relative to everyone else, and it makes it difficult to understand. Caitlyn comes out of that one like pretty banged up, if I recall.
Mhm.
True.
A lot of
She-
people citing Echo, the
Yeah.
foolish
Yeah.
citation.
You've got the Echo one's weak. The Caitlyn one on the bridge in episode 7, I would say, is also weak. Because the explodey bugs go off, one of them's on
Killed all
Marcus's
the
gun,
soldiers.
and the gun is pointed. It's
That's
like,
the-
it's
yeah,
as far away from Caitlyn's
yeah.
face as
There's
it
a
is from
butterfly in her
Marcus's
face. She should have probably died there, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that
She gets
especially
a bit of
'cause it-
shrapnel in her leg, which is maybe not enough.
Yeah, especially because it blew off Marcus's arm. So I mean, I think that season 1 definitely has those problems, but every time it happens, unless there's one that I'm forgetting about here, it happens kind of at the end of the fight, and so her getting to safety after the fact is not a. It's
Well,
not a
also
question.
always take an injury, right? If they give the character a significant injury that actually affects things going forward in the way that they behave, walk, whatever have you, it's like at least there's that. But Vi is the only one that we're told suffered such injuries that 3 doctors had to work on her extensively, and she's back to full strength in this scene.
Oh yeah, it's all fake. It's a fake
yeah.
injury.
It feels like a
Three
different-
doctors.
a different kind of problem in that regard, whereas because season 1 understood that its characters had been exposed to explosions, it perhaps didn't understand the severity of each situation accurately, like with the Caitlyn one in episode 7. We needed a bit more follow through or a bit more changing of the writing to make it so that her survival there is more believable. In
Yeah.
here there's not even an attempt. The student has turned in a blank piece of paper,
Yeah,
like-
it's all off screen, and you have to accept that this is what
Well, the
happens.
student has
whereas-
turned in
yeah.
a piece of paper that has A+ written on it and nothing else, and then
And
submitted
they
it.
smile at you, and you're like, oh.
I did it.
There was in terms of explosion proofs, there was a particularly egregious example in season 1 where Caitlyn gets blown up by Jinx's bombs as she's using them to get the first hex crystal. She's probably the closest of all of her teammates, and yet the people who were behind her were the ones that got vaporized, and she was still up and about, like doing clues and detective shit. So
That's the one in episode 4. That
Yeah,
one was
that's
episode four, yeah.
framed. That one was framed really strangely. If I'm remembering correctly, Caitlyn's actually outside the building. Like she's the furthest one away. It's just
Yeah,
like it is cut together in a way that makes it really confusing where everyone is.
I should hope that's the case.
And for
yeah,
reference, with
because
the
all of the other enforcers die. She's okay, and yeah, when you just watch it, you can't really tell. But
Mhm.
For reference, with the Echo one, because I've seen a lot of people say I was making a joke, but I don't think it came across. There is a sound that you hear before the explosion goes off when you get the wide shot. The implication being Echo hits the grenade away, so he would have far enough such that he gets the significantly injured leg, and that Jinx is on the verge of death, which I think matches enough.
The
But,
wide
yeah.
shot gives you
Certainly
some
something.
charity, and then the sound gives you even more.
In any case, that is the result. We are here. Yay, woohoo. And Shieldman is here, and he's like, hey, Vi, you okay? And there's this moment where you kind of hear Vander's voice. He looks like Vander, and it's just so sweet that we finally got to conclude his whole character arc, which is being mistaken for Vander. That's
Great value, Vander. Vander
It was
at
supposed
home.
to be a joke. God damn it!
I don't understand. It almost feels like that was the whole reason they had him. Just for this moment where she's like, wait, Vander? And he's like, no. You're like, oh,
No.
okay.
This is the first time his name has ever been spoken.
Yes.
I was
Ever.
about to ask that. Is this the first time?
This is
It
the
isn't it?
first time.
Well,
Yeah, that's the first time we hear his
guy,
name.
I don't think even gets his name said once.
That was something for me when people started referring to Greenman, and I was like, no, there was not a time where this was explicit, was there? Did the subtitles tell you this? Like, who the fuck? That guy. He makes it, by the way, thank goodness. He was like everyone's favorite.
Panda from Tesco.
Tesco Fanta. Yeah, he says, by the way, not only did it take the 3 doctors to patch her up, but that it wasn't a certainty that she was going to pull through. Like, yeah, but she's now fully healed.
She's just on her feet doing whatever the hell she wants, and she will be fighting in a war like tomorrow.
Yep,
I don't know.
and you'll not be able to tell that she went through any of this. And no one else suffered anything. It was just her.
Toothless.
Anyway, she says, "Where's Jinx?" Because of course everything's about Jinx, and he
we've been asking that
says,
for all season.
he
Asked
says,
about Jinx before Caitlyn.
yeah, and he says, "Caitlyn said she wants to tell you herself," which is
Why
like,
do you say it like
are
that?
you like? There's 2 angles to that. It's like, first, you baited the audience in terms of like, did Jinx actually blow up? Because obviously she fucking didn't. Why would you even bother trying that? And then 2,
course not.
why would you say that to Vi, Shieldman? You should be saying Jinx is okay, but there's something that we're going to need to talk about. Like, that's what you wouldn't say. She wanted to tell you herself. You'd be like, what? What do you mean? What happened?
There's no confluence of like reality and psychological states that leads to him ever saying this. You would never say this.
He's a prick. That's it.
But he's not a prick.
Yeah, but he's not. Well, yeah, because we had, I think it was in episode 5 where he was watching the where he was having fun with Vi when she was in her goth phase, and then he leaves because she gets drunk all the time. So maybe he's still pissed off with her about that.
So I'm gonna lie to you about your sister being dead.
I'm feeling a little vengeful. A little trickster.
He's a vindictive little shit.
That would have been better. I would have liked that.
So beginning a scene with Maddie and Caitlyn. Maddie says maybe we can negotiate with Ambassador, of course, and Caitlyn says she's going to burn Piltover to the ground for my betrayal. And it was at this point that I'd remembered, and I was like, oh fuck, they never used Ambassador's setup of the Memorial Day attack to convince Caitlyn to un-Dracula herself. Like, that would have been the obvious...
Like something that gets revealed that
Yeah,
the
it would have been, that would have been
discovers.
When she finds out, yeah, the detective, when she finds out what Ambassador had done on that day, that would have been a huge reason for her to be like, no, fuck this, I'm out. But they didn't use it, and they still had her say, fuck this, I'm out. Okay.
Except
Yeah,
now
'cause
we don't know why.
She seems aware that Ambassador is using her, and we did have a couple, like, I think it was in the previous episode, where they both acknowledge that neither of them trusts the other one.
easy.
But yeah, we don't know
All
why.
you need is that one moment where she's doing work with whatever prisoners, she's doing something somewhere, and one of them knows, because one of them worked for the Cam Baron that got the offer. Simple as that. Especially with how good the quality of writing is this season. Like, it would not be hard to get that in, and she finds out. But we could do it in all kinds of ways that would sync better with the story. But oh well, all I can say is they forgot to use that. It's an obvious way to get Caitlyn believing in something else as she flip-flops.
They really wanted us to know.
Yeah.
They had that clumsy flashback sequence at the end of episode 3 to really make sure that we all knew that Ambessa was behind it all. But it wasn't for anything.
They had time for the
Supposedly
flashback.
that-
I was going to say they had time for the flashback, but they didn't have time to actually use that information. And like the flashback was unnecessary because everyone already knew that it was Ambessa. It was just there for the audience's benefit.
Anyway, Ambessa is going to burn Pilter to the ground, according to Caitlyn.
Good luck.
I don't understand why the fuck she would ever burn Piltover to the ground. What? No,
She does that, and then the rest of Noxus
would
kills
hate her.
quite
Yeah, it's like, why?
swiftly.
We
Why?
need the lines to trade, you
There's-
bitch.
so many jokes that just freeze. Swain's just sitting behind his desk. He gets a little missive come through. It's like, have you seen what Ambessa's doing over in Piltover? He's like, huh, I guess I haven't checked
he's like,
in
why
a while. He
isn't-
sends over a raven. He's like, what the fuck?
What are you
It's
doing?
like, where's my wine shipment? And they're like, oh, think about that. There's this.
So she stole another 4 warships, I guess, and she's now waging war on Piltover. to try and get
Why?
this weird herald man to turn everyone into a hive mind. That's why.
So then we start getting into some real cringe. Not that we've already discovered some real cringe. Vi says, arrested? In regards to
Yes, of course.
Jinx.
Yes, you silly
yeah.
bitch.
Jesus, yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
Jinx is a
One
psycho
word,
murderer.
and it already pisses off everybody. It's like, of course she's
Man.
arrested.
Yes, she's a killer.
She's a
You
psycho. She's
remember
got a
how
higher
this
kill
season
count
started?
and
She
destruction
blew up
count
the
than any
council.
individual.
It's like, Caitlin, I know that she murdered your mother, but you can't be arresting her now. That's too far.
that's too
That's
much.
too far.
Well,
Probably
I hate
the
you.
greatest
This
terrorist
is-
attack in Piltover's history.
This I
It
see
has to be,
so so little as a story now, more as just the writers trying to tell me how they think and feel about things. I'm like, go ahead, writers, tell me why we shouldn't arrest Jinx through Vi. And Vi says, she saved your life knowing you'd never do the same for her.
Dude, we're having Vi extol Jinx's virtues to Caitlyn. It's the worst thing I've ever heard. I hate it so much.
You would never have saved her life. Is like,
Well,
correct.
the thing is, I was thinking to myself, like, hang on, how did that scene even go? It was Caitlyn strangled,
Yeah.
singed, and then Caitlyn was, like, preparing for her next move, and then Rictus hit Caitlyn? Did he? I can't
Yes.
remember. And then
Yeah,
before he
Rictus
could
ambushes
execute Caitlyn, Jinx comes in. And it's like, how... That can easily be contextualized as Jinx is interested in protecting Warwick rather than Caitlyn. She doesn't care about Caitlyn, which we know she doesn't care about Caitlyn. So I'm kind of amused by that. And besides that, Caitlyn actually has a response. She says, "We'll never know, will we? Because you didn't let me in on that part of your plan." Which I'm kind of sitting here like, yeah, why didn't you let her in on that part of your plan? Like that was just a
would've been
stupid move.
Good info.
It helped nothing not to let her know. And she'd be like, well, because she wouldn't work with Jinx. You'd just be like, I don't know what the fuck Caitlyn was doing at that point. Remember, Vi is like trusting her with everything. She lets her get captured. I think, letting her in on the Jinx situation, I don't see how that would change anything, and it's going to happen anyway. But I don't know how that's beneficial to just be like, I'll jump scare you with Jinx rather than letting you know. Wouldn't that lead to potentially Caitlyn shooting Jinx if you don't warn her that she's on our team?
100%.
I could
You
easily.
would think, yeah.
The way she's currently feeling about Jinx, she would see her and just pop her in the head immediately.
Ooh, no, hold on, because the Kool-Aid convent, whatever they're called, they have a guard that's meant to take away your weapons.
Oh,
damn it.
Of course.
See,
He was very good at his job.
Well, that changes
but, yeah,
everything.
The guy had some big brass ones, man.
yeah,
He
he
was
should have gone the side.
Dude, he stood up to
side way that Jinx
Rictus.
took.
He was like, yeah,
Yeah.
give me
We
give
got
me a
rules
thing.
here, man.
No, I don't care how
Um,
big you are.
Yeah, and so when she said you didn't let me in on the plan, Vi says, clearly the right call since you can't trust her enough to not shove her in a box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Psycho
Yeah.
Exactly.
demonstrably untrustworthy.
That's one of those Chad yes moments of, yes, I cannot trust Jinx.
Yeah.
I just want Caitlyn to say, Vi, do you remember she killed my mum? Remember that?
And all the other
I should wear a
people,
sign
and,
that says that at this point, just in case you
like
forget.
a big neon sign. Like,
I think, if I'm correct, in season 1, she kills 6 enforcers, and then she kills 12 more, including Marcus, and then she nukes the council. So we're getting up to a body count of 15 to 20 people, excluding
Well,
the gang.
Firelights, right?
Well,
Kill some of
excluding,
them.
sure, but Caitlyn may not care about them. But yeah, people from Piltover, you're talking 15 to 20 officers in uniform and or councilors.
And
like
who
political
knows?
But what
leaders.
if she uses
You know,
her
specifically.
explosions for good or something?
If she
Right, that-
I'll
that
use these
line-
explosions for justice.
I don't think we're at that line yet.
No,
but
we're
that-
not. I just
that
had to
line
put the meme here.
It's
It
got to
was
be
fit.
probably the worst line in the show.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Um,
I also wanna investigate the word "still" in this. Like, what do you mean "still"? This is like the first interaction they could have ever had in which
Oh, that's
it would have
true.
been positive at all.
it didn't make enough. It didn't make any sense that Vi is trusting her at this point. But of course, fucking Caitlyn wouldn't. Why the hell? It's been so. You guys have been together for so long, and it's like no.
As if there is some long history of Caitlyn unjustly being mistrustful of Jinx.
Yeah.
Rather than a long history of Caitlyn being very right to be skeptical of everything
Well,
to do with Jinx.
You know what? She could have fucking come in a bit faster. Caitlyn got hit by Rictus. She may have died. Good job. You know.
Rictus has, he's pretty tough.
Mhm.
If he hadn't waited around a second.
And but then Caitlin highlights something, and I was like, "Oh god, this is going to make things even more complicated." She says, "Jinx wasn't even there for my benefit. You didn't trust me to follow through." And Vi says, "Can you blame me?" Meaning that she deliberately didn't tell her about Jinx because Jinx was a failsafe to kill Caitlin in case she turned on them. I guess.
Which this is something I mentioned in the previous
Yeah.
stream. This doesn't make any sense because Vi did not know that Caitlyn was there when she told Jinx the plan.
Not only that, but if you thought there was a decent chance that she's going to betray you, why the fuck are you submitting yourself to Ambessa? Like, if you think
she betrays you in enacting that
Also
plan,
that,
what
yeah.
you're
if
just
she-
dead, yeah. Well,
Yeah, then you're done. So pretty stupid, but also Caitlyn should probably be a bit more annoyed.
well, yeah,
about
she
that.
just told her like, yeah, I
about
kind of
that.
did plan to kill you, somewhat. It's like, cool, man. And you're wondering why I can't trust your psycho sister and you at this point. It's yeah, it's great. It's also great. It's making everything better, you know. And we're running out of
learning a lot
time.
about each other today.
Seconds are ticking away, and we've got so much to do. But it's fine. You know what? We can spend our time ruining previous scenes even more. Not like they needed the help.
Well, they're good at this, at least in this season, so gotta keep with what you're strong at, I guess.
Also, if the plan was to have Caitlyn subdue Singed, save Warwick, while Vi subdues Ambessa, but have Jinx in wait in case Caitlyn betrays Vi and the team, does any of this account for Rictus?
No.
Yeah, I mean, what if Rictus just like won?
What if Rictus
Which he
just
nearly
wanders
did.
off to the
He
tent like he did? Like, what,
Yeah.
what then?
And again, he nearly won.
Yeah.
Like he nearly succeeded. It was only when Warwick.
Oh, let's be
Warwick
fair.
came
The only reason he
away.
lost is because the plot wouldn't let him win.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not allowed.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
So, yeah, none of that made any fucking sense at all. It was retarded, and they're lucky they ended up this way, but what happens when you got, like, hyper protection? And then we're given fantastic, excellent line here from Vi that even made it into the coming up next week
preview.
little preview, yeah. She says, because she's very mad at Caitlyn, she says, "How long were you sidled up with that shifty, self-serving war pig? She oinked poison in your ear and you just ate it."
Oink.
So
that is a clunky
is-
line. What does
Yeah,
it mean
oinked
to
is not a great
poison
one.
in your ear?
See,
You think
that
maybe-
oink confused me so much. I was like, is there another meaning in English that I'm not aware of for oink?
It's just as weird. It's just as weird to you as it is to us.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
One of the things where you write that like at 3 a.m. and you're like, yeah, it was a good line. And you wake
Yeah,
up the next day and you read it and you're like, oh.
Dude, I go
Oh,
further.
that's just
I
terrible.
think the person who wrote that was told it was cringe, and they were like, "No, it's gonna work. Trust me, it's gonna work. It's
don't know,
good."
just- I feel like you need to replace it with either a war cow. She mooed poison in your ear.
Oh no!
No,
I
no,
figured
war
like
duck.
pigs
Jared
quacked.
rule. Quacked poison
You
in
can
your ear.
you can like change the imagery you're using if you're insistent on keeping to the pig thing. Like we don't have to go with poison still.
Some can work, like howled.
Pigs are known for
Or-
being venomous.
Could work as
Or-
well, but these are like
Why not?
Chitter?
Poison has like this connotation of
Squeak?
subterfuge and like subtlety, rather than so you want it to be something that's not particularly loud and blaring like a fucking oink.
Why not
What about-
drooled poison? I mean, pigs drool, right? Why not that? I don't know.
Ribbited. She ribbited poison.
Ribbited poison.
Like,
Ribbited
lean
poison.
into
in your ear.
lean into the pig imagery, drop the poison imagery. Lean into the
Well-
poison imagery, drop the pig. Like pick one, please.
You could
Well-
describe her as like a snake and say that she hissed venom into your ears or something.
He slithered into your mind.
Yeah, no, I actually
There's
think.
been
Yeah.
so many of these.
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
years, like-
What I was going to say as well is like, I wouldn't say this about someone who was in the moment yelling and came up with these sorts of things. I'd just be like, oh, whatever. You know, you were mad. It didn't sound fantastic, but hey, whatever. But if you're a
You're mad
writer,
at you.
you get to
Yeah.
prepare yourself a bit. You
We
know,
can
you get
do
to actually
better, yeah.
redraft. You get to do the so. Even with everything we just covered, something that kind of stuck with me a bit, I was like, was oinked poison into your ear and you ate it. You know, it's like that's
Where I do all my eating is in my ear.
that's what I mean. I'm like, that's a bit mixed. You need to fix that. It doesn't
I really do
smooth.
not like the mental imagery there.
That's what they call oinking for a squeaky.
No. It's funny. There's this character I very much enjoy in Buffy who says he describes someone as a loose cannon, and he says they need to stop this person before they rock the boat. And then he goes, "Loose cannon, rock the boat." Is that a mixed metaphor, or does that work? And it's just like, yeah, I mean, I guess that does work. It's just a fun like combination, which feels to me like the opposite of this, where you put stuff in your ear and you eat it. It doesn't.
Doesn't
Isn't
really
there a
make
name for
sense.
that? Like when you mix up metaphors or idioms? What is it? A malodrome?
I
do not know.
Shit.
I don't know. I think there's an actual word for that, for when you mix up metaphors or when you mix up idioms and you combine them. Maybe someone in chat knows the word. But I'm pretty sure
Malapropism?
that's an actual.
Malapropism.
Malapropism might be the one.
Propism,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me take
No way I'm ever gonna say that word ever again.
malapropism.
She was a
Flamingo
glug and
instead of-
lathered
well,
strong gravy into
No,
your temple.
so that's when a
Some
malaprop
strong
is
gravy.
when you use a word in place of a similar sounding one. So it's not quite. That's not what I'm looking for. It's close. The example they give is dance of flamingo instead of dance of flamenco. It's when you combine idioms or metaphors incorrectly. Like head like a baby and leaf. It would be an example of that. Instead of like make like a baby and head out, you said like make like a baby and leaf, or I'm gonna make like a tree and head out. When you're mixing like euphemisms incorrectly.
There was one like in the what was the Boondock Saints? People in glass houses sink ships.
I mean, is it just mixed metaphors? Is that what people describe those as like a negative? As in,
Maybe I think there's an actual like a word for it, a specific word for it. But if anyone knows, let me know. I would like, now that it's on my mind, I'd like to be reminded as to what it is.
yes.
We got another cringe close-up shot on Caitlin's mouth again. In
On
response to
Oink?
Yeah.
No,
I can see her
like,
oinking in HD.
that would be pretty
Whoa.
funny, but it's just something
Oh.
I've noticed.
I think I know what you're talking
they've
about.
done this several times throughout the season, where they do like a close-up on her when she's a bit unhinged. And it's really like kind of cringe. It's like, yeah, see, look, she's angry. Look at how angry she looks.
You threw
So-
the thing.
I was going to say the
Yeah.
throwing of the thing to me was much
Oh,
funnier
okay.
as like a writer's flourish.
I think the whole combination of thing, the close up, the way she delivers the "I know"
I
feels
know.
so weak,
Like, ooh.
and then but very angrily throws the little boat. It's like this didn't like none of this meshed together, and I think the delivery was actually kind of bad.
I
also,
think I agree, actually. I
chat-
remember thinking about this one.
Chat has given the word I was thinking of. It's malaphor. I thought it was
Okay.
malice something. I thought it was like malodrome.
well, you
It's a
know.
malaphor. You mix up idioms or metaphors incorrectly.
Yeah,
Which can make for fun jokes, as I've done
Just-
before. But
Yeah,
chat, after yeah,
Malaphor.
you guys are going to have to turn the volume on if you want to hear it, but chat, after doing a big old yell at someone and then tossing this, and this is the sound of it hitting the floor. It's just
Good beat you've got going there.
might as well throw some chopsticks on the floor, you know?
Oh, it's made of plastic. I thought it was
it's just
real. Oh,
it's just not the same as tossing a mug into the wall, you know, or something like that.
Yeah. But this is probably the one instance I very much remember. It's like, I think this where I was like, this is actually kind of a bad delivery. I don't know why they switched this up at all.
Someone needs to make the edit of each bounce with an explosion sound.
Just flames.
Well, they do that in what is it? They do that in Aqua Teen Hunger Force, where sometimes
Yeah,
when they
they
toss
do
it out of the
every
way
single
casually,
thing they
it,
get through.
it explodes and it hits the ground. There's a little...
I feel like the delivery sticks out to me because they just move on to the next part of the conversation.
Yep.
We don't
That
don't
too, yeah.
Talk
elaborate
about
on
how
that
awkward
feeling.
it was. That just. Yeah.
Well, they keep creating threads that don't get sealed off or completed or have any closure. It's just like, you just established that you were going to kill me. Anyway.
Yeah, this is like
Caitlin, in fact,
this
does
show,
know, and
like,
she's very, very upset with herself over it. And then the writer's like, no, that was it.
yeah, the show annoys me very much with this because there's a couple of instances where they start talking you're like, oh, and then no, never mind. There's one in this episode, I think, with Jason and Bessa, where we're like, oh, we're actually talking about this, and then the show is like, no, actually not. We just
It is
stop, and then they
very
never go back to that.
unfortunately- Yeah, it's something that we've been noticing for the entirety of the season. That,
Yeah.
as Random has alluded to, is very Rings of Powery. These conversations that are completely cut short, that are important, that we want to hear, that are very integral to what happens next and how characters change, but we just don't see them. They start, and we don't get to see how they would realistically finish, or for dramatic purposes, the scene ends and we carry on. And it is extremely annoying.
And she says the only thing Jinx cared about was getting you to safety, and then she surrendered. Because Jinx is a big fat hero, don't you know?
Yeah.
Hashtag not my jinx.
She killed your mother.
Every time you say that line, I have to think about A Puss in Boots 2. It reminds me of that, and it makes me angry.
Mm-hmm.
We do need just the neon sign pointing at Jinx that says mass murderer.
Mass murderer.
Everyone's
but also
forgotten.
iconic hood.
They're iconic. Mass murderer hood. Caitlin says she's in the bunker while I decide what to do. I was waiting for you. I will consider this line super important. It's going to be bumped into several times in the next few scenes. Just to be clear, she is in the bunker while I decide what to do. I was waiting for you. To me, that line says, I don't know what to do with Jinx. I figure we would talk about it. That's what it sounds like, especially considering Jinx volunteered to go in the cell, essentially. So, anyway, Vi says, Kate, she's changed. And then Caitlin says, we can't erase our mistakes. And Vi says, who decides who gets a second chance, which I find super funny, because Jinx is on her, 17th chance at this point.
Yep. This one for realsies, though.
This is the actual second chance.
5-dimensional hypercube into the square hole in this case, there's so much wrong here in terms of what it's been over so many times at this point. I don't know. Jinx isn't a hero. We know what you're going for with the redemption arc and whatnot, but perhaps there are ways to get there a little bit more elegantly than pretty much just outrightly shoehorning the 3 sentences in.
Yeah, we're missing
even if,
2 or 3 seasons in between.
Even if they'd earned it, right now, shouldn't the conversation be, wow, that's great that she's changed. Let's hope she proves it by showing an interest in any kind of redemption, corrective behavior, giving back to society in any way, shape, or form, paying for her crimes, maybe, against all of humanity, while making sure everyone understands.
To the families.
Yeah, while showing she understands what she did wrong and moving on from it, instead of just being like, nah, she's cool. I hugged her. She's cool.
The thing Fringy said, I can't remember which episode it was on, but she hasn't really done anything to court forgiveness in any way.
No.
And she's going to continue to not do that.
Yeah.
I think she stoked a rebellion in Zon, as far as they know.